Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Film Talk. My name is Will Braunlich, and this show covers everything from movies, TV shows, and editorials. Today, we'll go over a movie that just hit streaming services after exceeding expectations with both critics and box office as well as a movie that you truly have to see to believe. We'll take a look at The Batman and the unbearable weight of massive talent. Let's start with The Batman. Here is my raw reaction for the trailer. Let's take a look at The Batman. On a dark and stormy night. Sorry, I completely lost track of what.
Police! Hands up! Stay still! Get out of here!
There's the Riddler. Make it like super red.
Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning.
What is that, like 10 guys against Batman? Yeah, it's like no problem at all for him. Ooh, geez, yeah, you got him.
I've been trying to reach you.
Where are they? Sorry, I can't help but imitate Christian Bale's Batman. It's just hard not to, you know?
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be
There's the
long before
Penguin.
nothing less.
Like, you almost couldn't tell that's Colin Farrell right there.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
This almost reminds me of that scene from The Dark Knight. I forgot whether it's like a third of the way in or like halfway there.
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
Many, many people. Like, not even kidding. I can't even begin to count how many people got to wear the Batman mask in live action. Well, I can name a few. Oh, that part I can think was improvised. I'm not sure how true that was, but that was pretty awesome if it was.
What's black and blue and dead all over?
You.
Dear God.
I got you!
All right, sure about that?
I got you!
Okay, that's awesome. Probably one of the best shots in the whole movie. Okay, so I can't help but compare this to the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, how it looks like it's trying to go for a much more serious approach. In fact, I think this looks a lot more serious than the Christopher Nolan trilogy, but in fairness, Batman really isn't known for being like a lighthearted character. I mean, to be fair, the Adam West Batman is pretty lighthearted and very goofy, but it was still very entertaining. And I guess maybe once or twice the Tim Burton movies were lighthearted. Actually, no, that was the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, because the Tim Burton Batman movies, well, some of the times they were for kids, they were mostly for adults. I remember back when Batman Returns didn't bring in the profit that they were looking for to sell toys, they pushed Tim Burton to a producing role, I believe, then brought in Joel Schumacher, who directed Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And we could pretty much figure out how those went. But I like Matt Reeves. I like War for the Planet of the Apes. That was one of my favorite movies from 2017. I am really much looking forward to seeing what this has to offer. Yeah, as a big Batman fan, I think this is gonna be a good one. The Batman is directed by Matt Reeves and stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright, and Colin Farrell. In this movie, a series of crimes are happening in Gotham, and it's up to Batman, played by Pattinson, to figure out who's behind this and why they're doing it. Matt Reeves is throwing his hat into the ring in writing and directing a comic book movie, as he wrote and directed movies such as Let Me In, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. Robert Pattinson is the latest actor to bring The Dark Knight to the big screen, following Ben Affleck. While he is known for being Edward in the Twilight movies, he also had to work in Christopher Nolan's Tenet and Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. Zoe Kravitz brings the character of Catwoman to life, and she is also known for Mad Max Fury Road, X-Men First Class, and Divergent. We also get the talents of Andy Serkis playing the role of Batman's faithful servant Alfred. Serkis is mostly known for doing the voices of Gollum in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Caesar in the Planet of the Apes trilogy. I am pleased to say that not only did this movie meet my expectations, but most of the time exceeded. One of the best ways to describe it is that it's an R-rated movie disguised as a PG-13 movie. This movie pretty much defines what makes Batman unique, that the character and the stories involving him are influenced by the realism and the grittiness of the time. Batman is mostly known as a grim figure who fit perfectly in the world he resided in, making him part detective and part Avenger. While we're on that subject, let's talk about the detective aspect of Batman and how it ties into the story. This is a really, really good mystery. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, it gives you clues, twists, and turns, and just when you think you've got it figured out, the movie very cleverly tricks you. I don't think we've had a Batman movie this compelling since Mask of the Phantasm, which is also fantastic. The script was very well written. Reeves had help from writer Peter Craig and did great bringing the best of the character, created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane. This movie is nearly 3 hours long, and yet there wasn't a scene I thought was out of place or something that could have been cut out to keep the plot going, because each scene really helps advance the story, as well as being clever in introducing characters fans of the Batman character will easily recognize. In fact, let's talk about the villain of the movie, the Riddler, played by Paul Dano. I actually really liked this version of the Riddler. How they make him a psychopath, leaving all these cryptic messages, almost toying with the police. Kind of like how the Riddler in the comics normally does, but this version is a bit different. Matt Reeves stated that this Riddler is more or less inspired by the Zodiac Killer, who operated in California in the late 1960s. Honestly, I got chilled each time this character was on screen, and how he reveals more and more of his plan. Although I didn't mind Jim Carrey's adaptation of the Riddler, personally, I feel like more and more people will talk about Dano's version. Matt Reeves also said that he always wanted to make a detective movie that felt like film noir, and he did tremendous in executing this vision. The music is outstanding. We got Michael Giacchino, who's done music for a lot of other smash hits like Up, Inside Out, and Jurassic World. There's been a long record of amazing Batman music, from Danny Elfman to Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard, and of course to the late Shirley Walker, who brought us the music for Batman the Animated Series. This soundtrack sounds different compared to other movies, and I feel like it takes some part of Shirley Walker's music and mixes it in. The theme is haunting, gothic, sad, but also hopeful. I definitely would listen to the soundtrack as much as possible. Special effects were great, especially the cinematography. We have Greg Fraser being the director of photography, and for those who have seen my Oscars episode, he did cinematography for The Mandalorian, Zero Dark 30, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, and most recently, Dune. It really brought out the darkness and grittiness of Gotham, and I think this is arguably the best looking Batman movie yet. There might be some shots that do make it a little bit hard to make out what's going on, but it really didn't ruin the movie at all for me. The chemistry between the characters was also spectacular. There's different people Batman has relationships with throughout this entire movie. Batman and Catwoman, Batman and Alfred, and Batman and Jim Gordon. The chemistry with Batman and Catwoman was just as iconic as it is in the comics. Sometimes we see these two working together, but an equal amount of times they're fighting. And it really begs the question on if Catwoman can really be trusted. She has a difficult past, and I think it really evolves her character going throughout this whole film. Next, let's talk about the chemistry between Batman and Alfred, or even Bruce Wayne and Alfred. Alfred is there to help guide Bruce and telling him right from wrong. He's the guy in the chair, as another comic book movie calls it. However, when it comes to the bond Bruce and Alfred have, Alfred does well in portraying a father figure to Bruce, helping him learn everything he knows so that he can be Batman since the passing of his parents. Lastly, let's discuss how Batman and Gordon work off of each other. This is probably around the days of Batman where he's established his identity among the people of Gotham, and people don't really know what to make of him. Gordon wants to work one way, and while sometimes Batman goes his way, but other times he goes rogue. Gordon is among the very few who do believe Batman is actually there to help and isn't a menace of any kind, like how he is in just about every adaptation of the character. And even though Batman crosses the line from time to time, Gordon still needs him for the missions where he's called into action. Now that we have on-screen chemistry taken care of, does the overall plot make sense? To sum it up, yes. As stated before, it's one big mystery, and while the movie does have a lot to juggle when it comes to moving the plot forward and establishing the characters, for the runtime of 2 hours and 56 minutes, it does good enough that it blends everything together. It also manages to have a fair balance between the dialogue and the action. However, I feel like there's a slight leaning more towards the dialogue in order to go deeper into the mystery. This movie definitely feels like nearly 3 hours, and I feel like there could have been a part where they could have ended the movie right there, but still continued. But even the events that had happened after that are still essential for the movie, because not only does it keep us entertained when we think we have everything figured out, this movie also gives us some good developments of the characters, making us want more. Compared to other movies, I honestly think this is really up there with The Dark Knight in terms of best live-action Batman movies. While Pattinson isn't on the same level as Michael Keaton or Christian Bale, he proved to be a good Batman and a solid Bruce Wayne. All the other characters were done great, from Catwoman, Alfred, Gordon, and even the Riddler, who was given a major modification just for this movie. He's given a much more darker and more serious costume compared to the costume Jim Carrey wore in Batman Forever, and the costume that the Riddler character is mostly known for in the comics. I still can't help but compare this movie to the Christopher Nolan trilogy, where they try to dive into more of a philosophical approach to the characters and to Gotham as a whole. This movie also likes to tease on future projects coming up, which I really hope happens. The overall script and story was nothing short of fantastic, has mostly great cinematography and set design, enough action to make you excited, and while the runtime may feel bloated to others, I think if you're a fan of the Batman character, you'll most likely really like this. My grade for the Batman is going to be an A. Unfortunately, this movie is no longer in theaters, and at least it isn't in any neighboring areas here. However, it is on HBO Max, and I 100% think it's worth a watch whenever you have the time. When we come back, we are going to take a look at a movie I've honestly wanted to see for a while, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Film Talk. My name is Will Braunlich, and here's part 2 of our review for today's episode. This is a movie that you truly need to see to believe, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Here's my reaction for the trailer. All right, let's take a look at Nicolas Cage. I sound like Jim Carrey for a moment.
I'm Nick. Friggin'! Okay!
Not the bees!
What's the worry here, Nick? You've lost some of your talent as an actor?
No.
It's Nick Cage. How can he lose his talent?
What did he say?
He says he loves you, but he went in a different direction.
I'm done. I'm quitting acting.
Ah, man, I'm driving through the hills. I'm sorry. One more time.
We got another offer. It's $1 million. It's to attend a wealthy gentleman's birthday party.
The guy that owns this house, what's his name?
Javi. Mr. Cage.
Excuse me. Is Javi going to want me to,
I'm not sure I understand.
Look, Javi.
I am Javi.
That was easy.
Nick Cage. God, this place is stunning. What is your favorite movie?
That's one of those questions that's impossible to answer.
That's true. That's very true. Like, you can't just limit yourself to just one movie entirely.
Is this supposed to be me? It's grotesque. I'll give you 20,000 for it.
Nicolas Cage having a mannequin of himself from Face Off is just, that fits.
I'm in position.
I think that's the actor Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, I love you. Have you seen Crudes 2?
I'm 44 years old. Why would I see Crudes 2? I've seen Face Off and Con Air.
Face Off.
What do you guys want?
We're with Central Intelligence. Do you know who you're spending time with? One of the most ruthless men on the face of this planet. I need you to help the U.S. government.
This is the way.
Find a way into that room, Nick.
I can see myself doing more of this stuff. I think I might have a real gift for it.
Good, because we got another mission for you.
No.
No, no.
Friend is working for the U.S. government. Don't lie to me.
Are those my golden guns?
They're my golden guns. I don't want to kill you. You're the last person I want to kill. I love you.
Perfect. It's absolute perfection.
I'm Nick Friggin'.
Still going.
Whoa, Cage!
Okay, so it's really what I expect, you know, Nicolas Cage being himself, and Pedro Pascal like being insane because he's mostly known for being kind of quiet in The Mandalorian. But for those who have seen Wonder Woman 1984, know how insanely bonkers Pedro Pascal is in that movie. And I like how they're like, you know, kind of not unintentionally, or maybe it was for a part of the script, how they're like one-upping each other and how insane both of them are. And I like how they like, you know, make references to like Con Air and Face Off and The Croods, all movies that Nicolas Cage was a part of. And I just like how this seems like, you know, a bit of a buddy comedy, maybe a little bit of a spy thrill. Not really so much a spy thriller, but like a spy that also has some laughs in it. In fact, I would love to see Nicolas Cage in a spy movie. I think he would be absolutely fantastic in that, and I mean that in the best way possible. I am looking forward to that, and I'll let you guys know what I think. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is directed by Tom Gormican and stars Nicolas Cage as himself and Pedro Pascal as in this movie. Nick Cage agrees to make a paid appearance at a rich superfan's birthday party, but is really working for the CIA since the billionaire, played by Pascal, is believed to be a crime lord. Tom Gormican has written for a TV series Ghosted and a romantic comedy called That Awkward Moment. So this is his first ever directing role. Nicolas Cage is a man who needs little to no introduction. He won an Oscar for his performance in Leaving Las Vegas and was in other projects like Face Off, The Rock, National Treasure, and Next. Pedro Pascal is mostly known for his lead role in The Mandalorian, Game of Thrones, and more recently, Wonder Woman 1984. This movie was a ton of fun. I honestly think this was the most fun I've had with a movie yet. That's pretty much how I can briefly sum it up, other than how bonkers it is and how much insanity we go through. The plot doesn't waste too much time in getting started. However, it also shares a bit of a side plot of Cage and his family and how he can be the kind of husband and father for them. Cage is also a conflicted character in this movie, despite playing himself, which some would say is the easiest role for him to ever play. However, this movie, although it might take some liberties, portrays how he is as an actor trying to find work and how he is as a person with his family and whenever he meets fans. He's also down on his luck trying to make some money with the movies he's making, which is a real aspect of how Hollywood really works. There's even a bit of a side plot where Cage talks to himself almost like his conscience. And this is a version of Cage we've seen before in interviews. Pascal also does well in portraying a Cage fanboy, going nuts due to the fact that he gets to meet his ultimate idol. The script was smart and hilarious at the same time. This felt a lot like a celebration of Nicolas Cage and all of his movies. They even mention most of his movies throughout most of the film. They even go out of their way to poke fun at big budget productions in their favor, but they also talk about movies they like, some more obvious than others. Gormigan had some help writing the screenplay, with Kevin Edden, who also helped write Ghosted. The whole idea was simple, but very effective. This movie is aware of what it's trying to be, which is mostly a buddy comedy with a mix of a spy comedy as well. And there are times when the gears suddenly shift and it feels like we're in a completely different genre, which I would normally criticize. However, seeing how Cage goes through similar swings, how he is sometimes calm and relaxed, and then the next thing you know, he's screaming his lungs out like in Face Off, and of course the cult classic The Wicker Man, I ultimately praise this decision. Let's discuss the chemistry between Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. We all know Nicolas Cage for being the over-the-top in most of his productions, and while he does deliver on that craziness throughout a majority of the film, Pedro Pascal brings even more insanity, and they both steal each scene where they're together. Pascal's character really wants to make a movie with Cage as the lead role, and together they come up with all these insane ideas, and even when they're not making a movie, they are still very funny, and we can see they are having fun with this. However, it's more than just Cage and Pascal, as Cage wants to be there for his family, and wants to do what he loves. Cage also wants to try and please his agent, who's actually played by Neil Patrick Harris. While all the other characters do a good job, in reality, the movie is being carried each time Pascal and Cage are on screen together. You could actually make the point that this movie is literally being carried by these two. The plot made sense, it was original, hilarious, easy, and was an absolute madness from beginning to end. We see Cage bring out the best in himself, and Pascal throwing his all into his performance, as well as both of them together are clearly the icing on the cake. And there is constant laughs throughout this entire movie that I ultimately had fun with this. Is Nicolas Cage a funny actor? From time to time he is, but he is a good dramatic actor, and when the moment counts, let me be real, he really doesn't disappoint. I will say the third act isn't as much fun as the first two parts of the movie, which didn't drag the movie down, I just didn't have the same good time that I did from the beginning leading up to this point of the movie. I also like how they reference to all of Cage's past movies like stated before, like Con Air, The Rock, Mandy, and so on. And they praise him, which would make sense considering this really is a celebration of Nicolas Cage, and this movie really has some fun with that. I think if you're a fan of Nicolas Cage, you definitely like this. Or if you want to go out with your friends and see a good comedy, then I would definitely recommend this movie. This has Nicolas Cage playing his greatest role yet, that being himself, and it's great to see Pedro Pascal getting work and film outside of The Mandalorian and from his small work in Game of Thrones. If you see the trailer and think this isn't going to be much, trust me, it's worth the price of admission, and if you're interested in seeing a comedy, my grade for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent will be a solid A-. I hope this movie stays in theaters a little bit longer because I think some people will really get a kick out of it, and even if it goes straight to a streaming service or right to Blu-ray and DVD, like The Batman, this is a movie I can definitely see myself watching again and again. I want to try and introduce a new segment called Cinema Milestones, where we celebrate anniversaries of some well-known movies. Ready for some nostalgia? Coming May 4th is the 10-year anniversary of when Marvel's The Avengers came into theaters and took the world by storm. May 3rd will mark the 20-year anniversary of the first Spider-Man movie, starring Tobey Maguire. And on May 2nd, we celebrate 25 years of Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, and May 9th for The Fifth Element. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Real Film Talk. I hope you all enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Will Braunlich, and I will see you at the movies. Save a seat for me.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.